Before we come to the before we come to the urgent cost on motorists, the urgent question, I'm going to repeat what I've said to the House at the start of the parliamentary session. The government's own ministerial code makes it clear that important policy announcements should be made in the first instance to this House when it's sitting. Some people seem to have very short memories. We've had the last 3 days of this announcement being drip-fed to the media. This is not in line with the government's own rules, and it is unacceptable. These backbenchers of either side are elected to this House to hear it first, not to be outside of Morrison's petrol station, not to be on a bus, not doing it to TikTok. These members should be respected. I uphold this House and I respect the members if the government doesn't. The government's got to get its act together and recognise the value of its own backbenchers. Right, we now come to the urgent question. Sir Lindsay Hoyle, Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer if she will make a statement on the government's plan for the costs to motorists.
Lucy Rigby.
Mr. Speaker, just to note that your comments just then are fully noted, and I'll ensure that they're fed back to the entirety of the ministerial team. Mr. Speaker, the government is taking steps to support households and businesses with their fuel costs in response to the conflict in the Middle East. Rapid de-escalation in the Middle East remains the best way to bring down fuel prices, where the most impactful step is, of course, to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. That's exactly why the UK government is playing a leading role in the international effort to get shipping flowing freely. And indeed, I contrast that with the position of the Leader of the Opposition, who would have rushed us to war. So alongside this key step, Mr. Speaker, so the Boys Club...
Sorry. I can't hear what the Minister's saying, and in fairness, we've put the urgent question on, in which we can hear the Minister. Look, I'm proud of this Parliament, I'm proud of this country, so I do want to hear it, Minister.
So alongside this key step, Mr. Speaker, the government's priorities will continue to be helping families with the cost of living, including through protecting the public finances. The government's taking action to bear down on prices at the pump, and in November we extended the 5p per litre cut in fuel duty for a further 5 months. Right now, petrol and diesel are 11p per litre cheaper than under plans inherited from the previous government. Some fuels have been more impacted than others by this conflict. We recognise that, and the government also recognises the pressures being faced by drivers and other fuel users. That is exactly why we are introducing a package worth over £400 million, which combines broad support for motorists with targeted support for sectors most exposed to and affected by higher fuel prices. And yesterday, the Prime Minister made clear that we will not increase fuel duty this year. The temporary 5p cut will be extended until the end of the year. And taken together, the government's decisions will save the average motorist over £120 this year compared to plans inherited from the previous government. But we also recognise, Mr. Speaker, that farmers face substantially increased costs on fertiliser and fuel, and that's why we're going further, cutting the duty rate on red diesel by over a third per litre to the lowest rate in over 20 years, and that of course will help other users of red diesel too. And then when it comes to road haulage, this sector, as members will recognise, is vital for transporting goods right across the country, and recognising that key role and the increased costs that the sector is facing, we are introducing a 12-month holiday for vehicle excise duty for the majority of heavy goods vehicles. This will save, Mr. Speaker, a typical HGV over £600, up to £912 on some vehicles, on top of the savings that I just described when it comes to fuel duty. So, Mr. Speaker, to conclude, this is one part of support for households and businesses. It combines universal support for motorists with targeted support for those most affected by higher fuel prices. And my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, will update the House later on today on further support measures for households and businesses.
Chancellor Sir Lindsay.
Mr. Speaker, may I begin by agreeing with you and to say that how disrespectful it is that this U-turn on fuel duty has already been released to the media earlier this week. The news was plastered across national newspapers on Monday, and the Chancellor then conducted a visit to a petrol station yesterday with journalists. but it has taken until today for this House to be updated. This is a pattern, Mr. Speaker, including, of course, the relentless briefings before the budget last year about tax measures and fiscal forecasts. You would think a government with so little support amongst its own backbenchers would have more respect for this place. Mr. Speaker, this change to fuel duty is yet another humiliating U-turn from a Chancellor and Prime Minister whose authority is shot. The Chancellor fought us tooth and nail on this issue. The Conservative Party has been campaigning for a fuel duty freeze for months. The Chancellor repeatedly rejected those calls, creating unnecessary uncertainty for motorists and businesses. Why did it take her so long to realise that putting up fuel duty during an energy crisis is a bad idea? Does the Chancellor really expect us to believe that this is all only happening, as she has suggested, because of better growth? Let's be clear, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor has been pointing to the slight upward revision in the IMF's growth forecasts earlier this week. That forecast was for growth of 1.0%. But until April, the IMF were forecasting growth this year of 1.3%. So where is the supposed growth dividend? And perhaps the honourable lady could address that momentarily. Is the Chancellor seriously suggesting that the outlook is better now compared to how it looked at the last fiscal event? And on wider measures, Mr. Speaker, will the Minister confirm whether what has also been briefed to the press, not to this House, that HMRC mileage rates are to be changed? Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. This is a government lurching from one U-turn to the next. Their mismanagement has left our economy weak. The reality is they're in no position to support people through these cost of living pressures because they have mismanaged the economy. They have no credibility left, and clearly they have no respect for this House.
Mr. Speaker, put simply, as I said, his party had motorists hurtling full speed towards higher fuel costs. It's only because of the action that this government has taken that we've applied the brake to the hikes that his party would have introduced. They would have introduced, Mr. Speaker, higher costs. We are lowering, we're keeping the freeze on fuel duty and protecting millions of motorists right across this country. And exactly as I said, we're taking further measures when it comes to red diesel and for HGV drivers as well. And this is on top, Mr. Speaker, of additional action that we're taking on the cost of living. The Shadow Chancellor and I saw each other in the studios early this morning when I was out there talking about the free unlimited bus travel for children that we're going to be. The Chancellor is going to be updating on this later today.
Sorry. I'm going to say to the Minister, I don't think it's a good example that we was in the studios rather than telling this out. It's confirming my problem that that Sky or BBC is more important than the backbenchers who've been elected by constituents across this country are hearing it second-hand. It is not acceptable. So don't think it's a bonus to tell the House now.
Speaker, the Chancellor will be coming along to the House later along today, and she's going to...
Order. I think the point I was making was that you said that you were doing the studios. You're here now. I think it should have been here first. Do we both agree, Minister?
Mr. Speaker, my apologies. I was intending to say just then that the Chancellor will come to the House and will give a full statement on exactly everything, including the matters that we are discussing today. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, that the Shadow Chancellor is so upset and so appalled by the recent growth figures. I am in the business of talking this country up rather than down, and indeed I'm grateful to him for highlighting that growth has been revised up. Interest rates are coming down, inflation is coming down, real wages are going up. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, this is because of the prudent decisions that this government has taken, all of which is allowing us to take further action when it comes to the cost of living. But this action that we're taking in relation to fuel duty is very, very important, and it's going to save millions of motorists lost money right across this country. I will address, Mr. Speaker, the point on HMRC mileage rates. The Chancellor will come to this House, as I said, later on and talk about the full package.